Welcome to the Crossing the Stream podcast. I'm Eric.
I'm Jesse, and today we have with us Kelly Jones.
Hello.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi, how's it going?
Great.
Happy to be here in downtown Welland. There's East Main, or West Main.
West Main.
The one story I always tell about, I have a house just off East Main Street, but while cutting the grass one time, I just watched a confrontation between some crazy person holding a big butcher's knife, talking to somebody quite calmly looking in a restaurant, and that was a situation that went on for like 10 minutes, but I'm like, I'm going to keep cutting the grass because this is crazy.
Oh, that's good commitment to your chores.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
most people can't maintain that kind of focus
No.
when there is someone with some sort of weapon near their property. But I guess you had a busy day and you're like, got to stay focused.
It almost becomes par for the course when you see a lot of crazy things happening where you live. So yeah. Maintaining that property was a wild time.
Well, I hope the authorities were able to diffuse the situation.
No, they handled it themselves. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
It was fine.
I have no comment on that. That was,
The lawn looked great. That's all.
Yeah, it did.
yeah, that's all that mattered. It was well manicured.
With my 1984 lawn boy that I got donated to me and is still going to this day.
It's so old it might be a lawn man now.
That's a good one.
Thanks. I'm here for all.
That's like a
that's
a dad joke.
Jared jokes. Oh, I am a father.
Perfect.
But I've been doing dad jokes long before I became a father.
I haven't necessarily gotten any better at them now that I'm a dad, but I have a good taste for them when they fit the situation perfectly. That's
I've been told I'm not good at them countless
You
times.
just gotta have a kid.
I know, but I'm practicing. This is a problem. So, I'm practicing the dad jokes. I mean, not the.
Well, you could be practicing the kid making part too. There's nothing wrong with that. We get it right eventually.
So, Kelly, I always ask our guests, because they do the best job, or better job than I ever could. Who are you? What do you do? What is the multifaceted definition of Kelly Jones?
Multifaceted aspect of Kelly
You
Jones.
do a lot of things.
I do a lot of things. Yeah, from volunteer work to obviously paid employment, and as I mentioned,
That's important.
yeah, and then having a fantastic wife and great child and 2 dogs. I actually have 2 dogs from Texas that have Italian names, so Luigi and Dino are the names of our dogs.
What kind of dogs?
Well, they're rescues, so we haven't done like a kind of a
Dog
DNA test, but yeah, we're guessing like a little terrier and then a bigger like lab pointer combo. That's our guess, but we're gonna, when we have a little extra money floating around, we'll put that in there.
I didn't know they had 23andMe for dogs. That's interesting.
Oh yeah, you can get a full. There's products for everybody.
You can do anything for your dog.
Yeah, like, hey, are you well enough off that you don't just want genetic testing for yourself, and now you got to start testing animals that are in your vicinity? We got the product for you. Start testing neighborhood squirrels.
Pet cloning is huge now too. Cloning your older dog and making sure that once they are no longer with you, you have an exact genetic copy of your best friend. And the general consensus of that is it's not good. It's weird because it's a genetic copy. It looks like your old dog, but they don't have the same experiences.
It doesn't have
agree.
like the shortcomings of like some of the early cloning experience where like the lifespan is reduced because of like.
As far as I understand, it's pretty solid in terms of proper cloning, but just odd.
That's something I got to look into. I haven't heard about that since like biology class, and then it was like this whole thing about teaching about telomeres, which are like help your DNA replicate without having issues, and those don't continue on when you clone things from previous methods. So you could clone a 5-year living goat at 3 years, but the new goat's only got 2.
Yeah, interesting animal choice. You're like, out of all the animals that we should be cloning, you're like, well, we should probably get the goat first.
People don't care so much about goats as dogs, I guess.
Yeah.
There's less ethical constraints. And now people care about the goats. So you got to move on to something else. Probably can't even use rats anymore.
Who's ever doing the branding for dogs and cats are doing a great job. Their reputation, their marketing is very strong compared to the goat community.
Yeah,
of course.
I don't know. Melissa loves baby goats. Baby goats get a good rap. If you can.
Oh yes, baby goat yoga was big. Yes.
Yeah. So the goat advertising community has also helped with the yelling of goats, especially of the babies. I think goats are...
The video game community got behind Goat Simulator for a while. Yeah, there's that. It's a wide-reaching audience that goats now have.
Yes. So I think as much as people like how cute they are. I think genetic testing on bunnies and stuff like that is still probably going to continue. Rats, monkeys.
Or we'll all be vegan in 10 years. What do you know?
Well, I guess it's a slippery slope. But, cancer research on the animals that you just described may be a good idea. Testing new beauty products, probably lower on the priority if you want to look at society as a whole versus, we all love a good beauty product once in a while. I know that I spent a lot of time in the makeup tent just getting prepared for this podcast, so I appreciate you guys for out that extra money.
The whole
Makeup tent all the way over there.
well staffed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Great buffet.
Well funded. Good
Yeah.
craft services.
I was just about to make a craft service joke. Got to be quicker.
God,
Yeah.
I live and breathe craft services, so.
Yeah, of course. So we got derailed by the dog DNA there.
It was you never know.
So I also work for the YMCA of Niagara and the Employment and Immigration Office. So I run two programs one called Employer Link and the other called Power of Trades, which are centered around helping new Canadians, internationally trained individuals, find jobs here in Niagara, especially related to what they were doing in their education or their experience before they came to Canada. And they come to Canada in a variety of reasons, obviously, from Syria and Ukraine, obviously more in torn situations, so a little bit difficult to manage, but the government's done a good job to kind of expedite their processes. And then from a variety of other countries as well. So I've done that for almost 2 years, probably a year and a half now. And it's been a pretty amazing experience and very rewarding. So I actually started my, professional career in 2000 at the Welland YMCA. So I was there for 13 years and then worked for the Welland Heritage Council here in downtown Welland for 8 years, and then back to the YMCA of Niagara, which has been a very fulfilling homecoming, I guess, for lack of a better term. Even though they didn't do any homecoming parade or anything for me, but, they were appreciated that I
Hear
came
it's
back.
coming. I just have to
It's
get
coming,
the funding for it.
Parades are expensive.
Yes.
The one thing I learned about, looking at the Grape and Wine and the Rose Festival, just the policing alone and road closures and permits and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, parades aren't cheap, so you can't take them for granted.
And they're chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
Like we years ago, we took part in a Santa Claus parade in St. Catharines, and it was fun, but being a float, which is really just your pickup truck.
God, I get imposter syndrome over tons of stuff, but literally driving a beat up pickup truck through a parade, no, I shouldn't be here. This is weird.
You have no idea. It took a long time to come down from that parade because we were advertising our holiday photos. So I was dressed as a green, we'll for legal cases call it a green and mean version of Santa. But for whatever it's worth, dressed
Someone
up
just
as,
said, saved yourself a cease and desist letter there.
Yeah.
That's good work.
And I had people afterwards say they left after, like, people didn't stay for Santa. It was so weird walking down the streets of St. Catharines and everybody wanted to talk to me. I've had to do a lot of counseling since then, but it's chaotic. From the planning standpoint, I have never even contemplated planning anything so as complicated as a city or town-wide parade.
Could be simplified if we had less like streets that were for cars specifically. Like if we had something downtown St. Catharines that was like just pedestrians only or whatever. But because it becomes that a lot in the summer when they are having their events like Grape and Wine.
Yeah, a cyclist friend who's going to Toronto today via his bike, because they just stopped doing the Lakeshore.
Mm-hmm.
They used to close that during weekends, and then also St. Paul and St. Catharines, but both of those came to an end this year, which is unfortunate, right? And we have to, I know Welland is releasing an active transportation plan, and hopefully I know it does have more bike lanes and connections to paths, right? Because, cars convenient, but they do, increase danger, pollution, noise, and the parking is a situation, right? So obviously you need to use cars, but I think, if we do a better job with infrastructure, I know that the downtown BIA, which is another role that I help out with, we try to encourage those infrastructure planning changes, but it's just so much easier.
Welland, St. Catharines, and Port Colborne are like the perfect places. And I guess Fawn Hill is a little out of the way. They're perfect because they have those canal paths that go back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Like I bike those for fun all the time, but reasonably, if you needed to get somewhere for any, for work or whatever, it's such a great way to travel that if there was more connections through the city, lots of people would use it, I'm sure.
Yeah, and Pelham's done a good job with the Steve Bauer trails. So the active transportation plan, I don't have it right in front of me, but there is attempts to connect the canal trails with the Steve Bauer and make that more of a united system. And so that should be great. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm probably going to go biking on it soon because I just got my bike all tuned up for the summer.
I need a new bike. Mine has been unused for way too long, and I want to use it again because I used to enjoy biking all the time. And I mean, in college and the first years after college, I did bike everywhere in Niagara because St. Catharines was great for biking. And when I moved to Welland, I just never got back into it, even though Welland is seemingly just as good, if not better, in terms of trails. And
yeah, like if we look out the window, we can almost see a bike trail, Jesse. Like
almost, yeah.
It's ready for you.
I know.
But I know storage here is at a max, so it's tough to work in a bike.
I happen to know a 1,600 square foot location that's completely empty where we could work on a bike.
Oh, and it's probably like within 10 feet of us, yeah.
Okay.
Internal bike storage.
We could have a bike repair shop downstairs.
That's a good idea. That's a good money-making opportunity.
Can you feel the energy of entrepreneurship here? I can. Yeah, it seems like you guys... Absolutely. I'm glad I came by.
An illegal bike repair.
My job is done here. Yeah.
If you do it quietly, nobody will know. Bring in your own, like, you can just...
A bike speakeasy?
Yeah.
Yeah. It does, like, strike me as interesting how many spaces remain vacant for, like, extended periods of times, ones that are completely usable and not in need of, like, any urgent renovations, and just how much space we actually have and how it makes a scarcity of something that doesn't need to necessarily be so scarce, whether it be commercial space or residential or anything like that.
Yeah, and I think that Ontario as a whole is looking at those that situation carefully, and there's different bylaws for each city, and I think they are looking at some sort of increased taxes for vacant buildings, because people will sometimes just sit on the property, looking at it as a pure investment piece with no intention of quickly developing it or what have you, right? And then that obviously makes aesthetically pleasing. The curb appeal goes down very low, and it doesn't give a sense of active economy and so on in any city. So I'm happy that they're looking at that. Obviously, you don't want to stifle too much of capitalistic real estate investment. That's important, right? We've seen a lot of huge increases in our downtown with more real estate development. Hamilton's a good example, St. Catharines as well. And also we talked about Port Colborne. And so when people have plans and utilize those storefronts, you start to see a huge improvement, right? So
Port Colborne is weird to me. I used to do baby photography all the time. And whenever I was doing baby photos in Port Colborne, I was always in a certain part of Port Colborne. And I always thought, gee, this is like Welland, but it's on the water. It's very similar. I never realized until last year or the year before that there is a beautiful, thriving part of Port Colborne that I had just didn't know. Like I didn't go close enough to the water to ever appreciate the port of Colborne. So that was just a random tangent, I know. But
it is lively. Like you go down there in the summer when I would bike there, and you have like ice cream trucks and lots of people coming to visit and enjoy and have a good time and go to the beach, go for a swim. Probably one of the best beaches around, really. I much prefer to swim in Lake Erie if I'm going to swim somewhere.
Yeah, well, I think overall, like Niagara, I'm going to use a fancy word, a plethora of waterfront opportunities. Yeah, I know, huge flex. But, you look at
your vocabulary is unparalleled.
I think I might peak there too early with the vocabulary. But, utilizing the canal, from an infrastructure, but people just coming in to use the canal itself. And there are canal trails that go back here that go through downtown and beyond. It's a big secret tourism draw. I know that the Best Western that's right along the canal, a little bit out of the downtown area on Prince Charles, they do tons of tourism throughout the year and get people utilizing and people that have lived here for so long, sometimes like, oh, I never used the canal trail, or I never go to the canal, or what have you, or even maybe in the similars to West Street and Port Colborne, so it's pretty amazing. And you throw on the Niagara River, Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, as you mentioned. It's just like so many waterfront options, and it's pretty awesome.
So many like other huge landmarks and things around that even like tourists are kind of overwhelmed by it sometimes. I think a good example about it was I was out for a bike ride like last week, and somebody was walking along just like the bike path, and I'd stopped to do something, whatever, with my bike. And they're like, oh, is there anything like interesting around here that we should see? And I'm like, do you know, like, have you gone to see the whirlpool, like the gorge? And they said, no, we've heard about that. That sounds really interesting. And they're like, where is it? I'm like, if you walk about 100 feet that way, you'll go down the stairs and you'll see it. And they're just like, what? It's right here. Like, yes, it's right here.
Yeah, there is a lot. Like, obviously, Niagara Falls has a huge reputation, rightfully so.
Yeah.
And there's lots of tourism areas there that can consume people's attention and also where they're spending their money and so on. But yeah, especially Niagara-on-the-Lake's done a great job of branding, and I think slowly but surely St. Catharines, Welland, Port Colborne, even Wainfleet, with the beaches there, I think they're slowly starting to get the word out. But I know that when we do international competitions here, either the Flatwater Center or Young Sports Complex or even the Welland Arena, you know, a lot of people that are coming from out of town or out of the country, they're like automatically want to go to Niagara Falls. I don't blame them, because, you know, there's tons of amenities there and cool and exciting things.
It's
that trucks on that motorcycle's tuned perfectly.
There's resources for like marketing a place that I had never even thought of like in years past. Like, for instance, so many people probably go to Niagara-on-the-Lake because of the Hallmark movies that always uses like a filming location. Like, people know where it is.
I mean, they have done a great job in cultivating a specific look. Very few in general Hallmark movies have actually filmed there when you consider, you know, in general how many Hallmark productions there are. But it doesn't matter, because even if one or two have filmed there at Christmas, it has the vibe of a Hallmark location. So people will flood there. They do it right. Free parking at Christmas time, so people can just come. And it's nice because not every place has a winter boom, right? Like ski resorts do. But Niagara Falls is slower in the winter, except for the Christmas lights. But Niagara-on-the-Lake just gets their Christmas wonderland boom.
Yeah, it's still much more of an exciting thing in the summer, but yeah, at least they got one thing to count on pretty much.
I like that Hallmark Christmas movie where the girl is a big city success, and then she goes back to her hometown and then meets her ex-boyfriend, and then she starts to reimagine. She thought she was too big for this small town, and then she meets that, you know, her former boyfriend, and they hit it off, but first they fight a little bit, and then she really re-embraces what
the movie's talking
about. Small town.
Yeah, I think,
love.
yeah.
And they
was
fall
like,
in love in a hometown Christmas setting.
and it takes place at an inn, and it's called Falling in Love, or Falling for Christmas, or a ton of, that.
Do you know that Hallmark movie that I'm talking about?
Yeah. So I love them. No, I tolerate them. That's tough to do. You writing that style of film, or writing any type of camp, because they're campy Christmas movies, that takes a lot of talent, because you have to go into a writing project like that thinking this is going to be the next It's a Wonderful Life. Because if you go into it thinking this is cheesy, if it's not genuine, you can tell. Like, it's a weird thing to have to write. I tried writing like a Sharknado type stupid script years ago, and I got to like page 5 because I realized I wasn't taking it seriously, so it was just way too campy for its own good. And as much as I like the premise of water velociraptors, I didn't continue with it.
Trademark pending. Yeah. And then Eric's listening to another podcast right now. He's
tuned right out.
Catching up on Joe Rogan.
No, but to tap it, I've never done any writing myself outside of, unsuccessful bands that I've been in, or borderline successful. That's a better term. And I always think about, like, how does Daniel Steele get motivated to write another romance? Like, kind of what you're tapping into, that team of Hallmark writers. There's like, okay, like,
it's a very small team. There's like 10 people that crank out all the films, and that's all they do. And they make a good living doing it, but it's, I wouldn't be able to do it. I have a writer friend who is big in the self-publishing world, and she writes so much. Like, I take 10 years writing a script. That's my process. And I submit the script to festivals, and it gets like 65%. That's my 10-year thing. So, and she'll publish 3 novels a year, and it just works for her. But I have no idea how people output at the volume of that, or like John Grisham or Stephen King. Just I can't fathom. I don't write professionally because I don't have the time to write professionally. But even then, I wouldn't be able to write a book a year. I can barely write a book a decade. So,
book a decade.
I don't even think I could write for a different reason. It's just because almost all of what I read is nonfiction. And like, I could write like a technical manual, maybe, if I was really into something, but I wouldn't be able to write like a narrative. It's just not my thing.
One thing I do take, it's slightly egotistical, but I always take notes because, like, being only 31, I can't write an autobiography. There's too much ego in that. But I take notes so that way when I'm 60 or 70 and I things have gone full circle, hopefully, then I can do it. But I think anybody that writes a biography about themselves before, at the very least 40, there's some major issues.
Well, I think you have to look at it, from 15 minutes of fame, like, if you know that your time, if you write this book 10 years later, no one's going to buy it. So
yeah,
I think sometimes from a timing perspective, there is some sort of rushed biographies.
So I should have written a book in the month and a half between being told I won and accepting the 40 under 40. Because that would have been the most prestige I ever got.
You just got to have a bigger step up. So you got to write it and then announce you're running for candidate for, the local mayor or something like that. Yeah. Or go big, try to get elected to a major party. Who knows?
Okay.
Foray into politics.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
And you got to do that bike repair business downstairs. So it sounds like
the whole reason I took my bike to a bike repair business is because I completely messed it up trying to repair it. I hate gears and derailleurs and like all that stuff. It's a pain. Like, I don't mind working on just about anything, but for some reason bikes don't agree with me.
Is it the grease?
No, it's just I make it worse. Everything needs to be tightened to a very specific degree. Mostly, it's mostly about tension, and I just can't get it right. I'd sooner be able to work on my truck and do like a major repair than to do that for some reason. Yeah, bike repair is no fun. Plus, it's not expensive to have your bike repaired. For like $100, what they did to my bike would have taken me like a day. So totally worth it. Not a big deal at all. Yeah.
So a very affordable, illegal bike repair speakeasy.
No, it's not a money. That's for sure. I'm sure they make great money on the sales of new bikes just because that's so expensive now. You want like a decent bike, you're looking at like $600 at least. Seems like it anyway. I mean, yeah, I don't bike shop too much, but that's what the bike shops seem to be selling them at.
Yeah, for me, I started my biking career in the 90s as a BMX racer.
Seriously?
Yeah, like when I was in grade 7, 8, grade 9. And then I transitioned into mountain biking, and now I teach spin at the YMCA, and I still do a lot of biking around and stuff like that. So
the more you know. I never knew that.
Yeah. So the Welland YMCA, 6:15 Monday morning.
I always have to be careful because I pay attention to the weird things. So you were talking about how, like, you were working back in 2000, and my mind always goes like I was 8. Like, I'm at the weird point in adulthood where we're on the same level, but, like, not really.
Yeah.
I was 8 when you started a professional career.
You could have easily been one of my campers. I started at YMCA summer camp on Merritt Island. Yeah, so I know you lived in God's country, Norfolk?
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Well,
is that like the town slogan or something? In God's country?
I've never...
No, it's something I just made up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tobacco country, it's known for, but...
I was going to say, I didn't think it was a particularly religious part other than it's definitely got the country vibes now.
Yeah. It's changed. It's interesting. like looking back, my family was heavy in tobacco, so like I am the stereotypical family that has come from there, because some of the extended family is still in farming and whatnot, but I don't think anybody's in tobacco anymore. But I think I'm the last generation to have actually been Tillsonburg or Oxford, Norfolk County born that worked in tobacco before it all became an overseas gig. But it, again, not tied to the YMCA summer camps. But yes, God's country, tobacco country. It is an interesting place. And your DJ employer is also in God's country, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I have, another gig I have is I work for Black Creek Music as a DJ. So
they are in Delhi area.
Yeah. So yeah, lots of interesting things. So Jordan, who's originally from Niagara Falls, moved out there for another job, and I was doing a few DJ gigs. Me and him played on a few bands together, and he covered one of my DJ gigs. Really enjoyed it, and he just, he's an amazing entrepreneur and business-minded individual, and he's taken that business to the next level and started in Port Dover, and then switched over to Victoria. And then now has recently purchased, we talked about reclaiming older properties. So an older theater in Delhi named Capital 33 is what it's called now, restaurant in the front and amazing venue in the back. So they have, Kim Mitchell, Matthew Good's been there, Walter Osenak is coming up.
Of course.
Yeah. And so, invested a ton of money in there, but, things are going really well. And that's pretty much his main hub for Black Creek Music. So I still do a lot of gigs for him, but his team has grown probably to, I think, 8 to 10 different DJs. And so doing live events, getting more into that, and just purchased a mobile stage. So I've been super impressed with what Jordan's done. I'm happy to be a part of it. I'm actually DJing in Simcoe on Saturday, Buck and Doe, at the Junior Farmers Pavilion or building on the fairgrounds.
I'm sure it'll be a rootin' tootin' good time.
They do like the country music. That's been a big learning curve for me. Not a big country music fan, but I do like when people like the music that I play. So it's just been, but the state of new country is a very interesting development in the last little bit, right? So it just seems to be growing and growing every year. But
we've done our fair share of like Norfolk and Oxford County weddings, because it's a very underserviced market for wedding video, so we can sneak in there. Although ironically, we do more photography there anyways, but we sneak in with the video side of things. And I think,
is that a camera like that kind of sneak in?
all the time.
Yeah.
Very good. Actually, it's amazing. My other videographer and I were he wouldn't think we could really hide. We're kind of like the elephants in the room, for lack of a better term. And there is no better, there is better, anyways.
People have been asking about the elephant suits and why you wear them, but yeah.
Yeah. But we get all the time from people saying that they had no idea that we were in the room during that time. So whatever it is, us rotund people can really blend in, which is nice.
Do you think it's that, or do you think it's maybe just people getting comfortable with the fact that there is a videographer present at the event, and then eventually it just sort of blends in with the environment in that way?
Yes and no. Like, you can still tell most of the time people aren't comfortable with the way they look at if you catch their eye looking at you or looking at the lens, you can tell that they are aware that you are there. But really, I don't talk to like the bride's uncle later. And typically it's the bride and groom that say, we didn't even know you were there. So maybe it's the bride and groom that get more comfortable, or they realize they've invested however much they've invested, so they better just forget. That's why I do so well because when I do wedding video, typically I end up with the bride and the bridesmaids. And it works very well for me because my entire life I've been ignored by women. So it fits.
But I think there's an opportunity, because every family has that uncle, and then when two families join through marriage, there potentially,
I know where you're going with
stats show that there's potentially could be two that uncle. There should be maybe put together a documentary about the collection of different uncle footage that you have. You know, you talked about a technical manual, so this would be nonfiction, right?
It's fair.
Yeah, so this could be your sign.
I
Right?
got lots of documentary
like a-
footage of the uncles trying to get their
Come up with like a sociology research paper.
iPad shot of their niece getting married and stuff like that.
The iPad
And
shot.
If they have a DSLR, it's usually like a Pentax, and you're like, how the hell did you pick that out of the sea of DSLRs that have been available?
Yeah, you know, obviously DJing a lot of weddings. And both of you guys have done photography. I have not, but it is
Do you want to join?
amazing.
We're hiring.
No, but it is amazing where people have multiple generations, complete disregard for the wedding photographer and videographer on getting that prime shot. Like, I understand you want it, but you know, just like, and I would, as a DJ, I was trying to remind people, I'm like, make sure you let the professional photographer have the best view, right? Because they're going to be documented, and, you know, just try to suggest that gently throughout the evening if I see some people, you know, trying to infiltrate the perfect shot. And especially, the iPad shooting, it's kind of calmed down a little bit because you've proved that you have enough tech savvy that you need and have operated an iPad, but it is very far from a camera.
Yeah, especially for an ergonomic standpoint.
Yeah.
I think wedding photography and video, but mostly photography, has changed for the worse in terms of everybody having a good camera. Like I think when I talk to like clients' parents and stuff like that about their process when they got married in the 80s and whatnot, when we take pictures, we try to deliver the photos as quick as possible. Typically, it's a few weeks up to 60, depending on the time of the season. The problem with that is years ago, when the photographer was done, the bride and groom would come back and you would see the negatives. And that would be the first time that they saw any photos from that day. That would be very powerful. That's why it worked. Now, if the bride logs on to her Facebook account right after the ceremony, she's already tagged in photos from her ceremony.
There's nothing competitive about it, though, because, of course, there's snapshots at that point, but, like, it is the post stuff, and it is specifically, like, the angles that we can get into. Like, for instance, thank God, nobody's never run up with their phone, try to get the ring, you know, on the finger shot, because that's, like, they'd have to be
We've had people stand up. There's been some...
Well, I'm in their way, so it's too bad. This is not going to work. But, like, I think that they both have their place, and that one doesn't really take away from the other in any way.
I like the family of, aunts and uncles of brides and grooms that, tell us how to do things or tell us that we're doing it wrong or getting mad at what we're doing. Because when we're doing video, we have these lights, and some people don't like them, and they have batteries in them. And I was shooting a wedding, and one lady got so mad at the lights, she went to unplug it. And if you unplug it, it'll shut off, and it did. And then the battery kicked back on. So she unplugged it. There was a moment of, ha-ha! And then the light came back on, and she was so mad that the bride and groom apologized for her. But weddings are this weird 12-hour existence where, like, anything that can go wrong will, and we've had plenty. Yeah. In fact, just for fun. Without giving names or details, do you have a wedding horror story from the DJ perspective?
No, I've been super lucky, and I know that we work pretty hard on, you know, trying to meet with the couple beforehand to prevent that, and move into more to consistent venues where it's less unpredictable natures. But yeah, there is some times where you are running frantically. You know, there was a time where, you know, I've seen people forget the wedding license and have to drive across Niagara on the Lake while everybody's waiting. Yeah, and just little things like that. But and I don't envy those situations for those people. But you know, it's been pretty. I'm pretty lucky. So I guess I go knock on wood here. This is wood, right? I think that I think meeting with the couple and getting the expectations. But like you said, the relatives are always, you know, wild cards, or friends and family. I do remember we did this one wedding, and this one, she wasn't a bridesmaid, but she wanted to play like this random Anchorman quote, like in between songs. And I was just like, it's going to be really tough. I got to a dance floor going, right? And I just kind of, you try to diffuse the situation. I'm like, what's your number one artist? What's your number one banger, as the kids say? And so I was able to kind of diffuse that situation and move away from the anchor. I do love Ron Burgundy, and I do have a habit of reading whatever's in front of me, and no matter what it says as an MC. But I think that, trying to maneuver those relationships is always interesting, for sure.
It's a bit of a performance in that way. Like, I think...
Well, I mean, especially his job. His job is a lot of performing.
Yeah.
Ours is too, surprisingly. The longer I do it, the more I realize that there's a lot of performing in wedding photography.
Yeah. It's as opposed to the technical skill. Because if you ask somebody, what does a DJ or a photographer do? They think it's, they operate the equipment, they operate these things. But it is largely people skills, and it is largely a show. If people think you're doing a good job by how you're acting, they're going to be more in tune with things. They're going to be a bit more upbeat, and you're going to get better pictures, or you're going to get better people dancing on the floor. Like it's about lifting spirits and convincing people that you're doing a good job is a good way to do it.
And I will tell people all the time, because we meet with brides and grooms that are very early in their planning or very late in their planning. So sometimes we get to help mold their days in little ways. And I will always tell them to make sure that you heavily vet your DJ and or band. There's still too many families out there that say, I've got somebody that's in a band that's bringing the speakers and somebody is going to run an iPhone. And the problem with that is there's a skill to DJing and reading the room and getting people up that you don't get with an iTunes playlist.
Well, yeah, I think flowers, videography, photos, DJing, even culinary, when people start to say, I got a buddy, I got a cousin, and everyone's got to start somewhere, and you should be apprenticed properly moving into those situations. But it's just, the equipment, you got to have top-notch equipment and all those avenues, right? And because, I've done things where you go to a stag and do as a guest. One time in Niagara Falls, I just happened to have my gear from a night before in the car, and someone's trying to fill a hall with music with a Bose, a larger Bose system. But I'm just like, this is not your basement. This thing, Bose, an amazing product, but it may sound amazing in your big living room, but like, this is different. You got over 200 people. You got to have some big time gear. And also, when it's focusing on DJing, is that what you listen to, just you, and what your aunts and uncles and friends all want to listen to when they have a few drinks is a totally different playlist and a totally different, and those requests are going to come in, and it is getting more complex because with the Spotify world, people have access to tons of music, right?
Yeah.
And then Niagara, especially, and beyond, is becoming more culturally diverse. So you're starting to see more in tune with like Latin, reggaeton, all that sort of stuff. The country factor is unique, right? So with the access to music, you have to be really agile and on your toes. And that when iTunes first came out, there was lots of, let's just plug in a laptop and people can just type in whatever they want. Well, now you're getting songs cut off and all this sort of stuff. And, it costs money to get a DJ or have a proper videographer or a proper photographer, but
we're going to turn this into a commercial.
Yeah, well,
it happens all the time. Yeah.
No, but I'm just saying the truth of the matter is that's the reality, right? And weddings is supposed to be a one-time thing. Like the
3 or 4
gets expensive if it's multiple.
Yeah. Like the stakes are high, right? So let's say like to put in a sports analogy, you need to get one foul shot and to win the championship, and you bring in someone who's never taken a foul shot before, you're probably not going to win that game, right? It's just
true.
Like, so you have one opportunity at nailing the dance floor or the pictures for your wedding or the food or the flowers, and you're bringing in someone who's never done it before.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I've used sort of this analogy for a lot of things after it really set in running the retail store in the past. If there are varying degrees of quality in a product, say a cheap product that isn't so great, and a middle of the road product and one that's really good, at the end of the day, if you can upsell, which most businesses want to the best product, the good one, no matter how much this person is paying, if they've been convinced to pay it, they're not, if they bought the good thing and you know in your heart that it is the best product for them, they're not going to come back and complain about the price later, right? They've bought it. They're going to enjoy it because you know it's good. But no matter how good of a deal it is, if the product is not up to their standards, they're going to complain. Like it's the same kind of situation. You can get a photographer for nothing, but if the photos are garbage, you're going to be complaining about that for the rest of your life, probably. But if you spent a little too much, but the photos are great, it's okay. It's forgiven.
All right.
Yeah.
It is a weird, I mean, like most service industries, it's a weird scale to be on because we could be providing, in theory, like if you break it down, you have a photographer there for 12 hours. You have somebody that charges 10 grand. And you have somebody that charges $500.
Yeah.
And then you have all the middle ground people, and they're all performing, in theory, the same service. And then it's all how they market it, how they do it. I mean, how the photos turn out as to whether or not people are happy with the $500 deal. People are unhappy with the $3,600 deal, and people love the $10,000 deal. So that's where the variable comes in. Meeting with clients is very important. There's a lot of photographers out there I know, and I'm sure there's DJs too that will only do like phone calls and stuff like that. But we like sitting in front of the people talking. That's why the past 3 years were always weird when we had to do Zoom calls, because we lose so much of the personal factor. And it still weirds me out when brides and grooms will be like, we like your website. I called you. You exist as a person. We're sending a deposit. There's no pre-planning. There's no consult. They just book. And it still makes me feel weird even after all these years when people are just giving me money for doing a 5-minute phone call. So
Got to be an amazing phone call. I might actually call you this afternoon and experience one of these phone calls. Okay. Kelly, I noticed you sent me $500. I'm like, it was that good. $100 a minute.
My phone calls are okay, but when I get in person, I keep track. I have like a 90% sales closing rate for wedding photo and video in person. Phone call, it's less, and by email, it's god awful.
What about letters?
Letters, 100% success rate with 0 sample analysis. So
Carrier pigeon. What's your success rate?
We could do drone.
We could
do drone.
Smoke signal.
Digital. Okay. Smoke signal. No. You were talking about the cultural shift in Niagara in terms of music taste, which is a great transition. I just slurred that. Transition to planning a giant concert series in Welland with a huge focus on a variety of different musical genres.
Yeah, so another responsibility that I've taken on in my life.
I do want to go back to the BMXing at some point because that is interesting. But let's talk concerts on the Canal.
Well, if we're gonna get into that, then I'm gonna talk about the movie Rad, and it could be
okay. Rad. I never knew it existed.
That's a travesty, and your life is lesser.
And I have a friend who is a big movie buff, as am I, but he is older than me, but not by a considerable margin, but by enough of a margin that he said, hey, Rad, there's this movie called Rad, and it's playing at Cineplex, and I think it was last year or the year before. Like, I have no idea what this movie is. It's a BMX movie from the 80s, and it is I saw it, I think we talked about it, and it's the most 80s movie I've ever seen in my life, like in terms of small town, there's a BMX competition coming to the town, and there's a kid in the town that can't race in the BMX competition because town people aren't allowed to race. But then they change the rules and allow town people to run in the race. But they change the rules again. They have to have sponsors. And it's just, there's this weird thing where they overcome an obstacle and another one happens all within a 90-minute movie. There's a prom scene where they're dancing on BMX bikes in a gym. It is ridiculous.
No, well, yeah, it's awesome. I went to the replay of it. And
Did you?
Yeah, of course.
So did I.
Yeah.
That's the first and last time I saw it.
The dance scene to Send Me an Angel is amazing. Some of the moves that they're doing on those bikes, and it was that was awesome.
It is awesome. It's just an odd, low-budget movie, and it makes me sad that I didn't have the opportunity to grow up as an adult in that film era, because somebody had to go to somebody with a little bit of money and say, I want to do a BMX movie, and there's going to be a dance scene in a gym with BMXs, and somebody's like, here's $1.6 million. Now, you can't do that. I can't pitch a movie to anybody to get something. But if you can just say, I'm going to do a BMX movie, give me money, and somebody gave them money. And now the golden age of weird cinema is...
We're in the golden age of crowdfunding. I feel like the possibilities are probably better for making something niche.
Crowdfunding so hard.
I mean, it is, but everything, I'm sure that guy's job was pretty hard to get that movie pitched properly. So
I'd like to see the investment to profit ratio for Rad. It must be pretty high. Like, as in, like, how much it costs to make and how much it costs to, and how much money it made. Like, they re-released in the theater, so it can't be a complete dud. It's got to have some financial viability to it. Yeah.
I guess we're going to get the statistic on that, hopefully, because...
He's looking into his fancy light box right now.
Yeah,
so.
We have the wealth of information beaming straight into his eyeballs at the moment.
So it was actually a financial bomb, grossing just $2 million against a budget of $3 million.
Ooh.
But with re-releases and the fact that I'm sure a movie like that did well on both VHS and Blu-ray, when people realized how ridiculous it was, I'm sure it has made its money back. Otherwise, they wouldn't have re-released it. So.
I'm just concerned about it's the second time you use ridiculous, where I feel like amazing should be.
Amazing. Like, it's a time capsule. Because I didn't exist when the movie came out.
I know.
And there's some movies that take place in the 80s that still feel like they could happen today. I feel like that movie can't happen today.
I would argue, because recently watching one of the police academies, I would say most 80s movies cannot happen today. I would say 80 to 85% for sure. There's some really inappropriate things. Yeah, but there could be a re-release of Rad. But going back,
it is fun. Like, I will say, it is a fun movie.
It's complete indulgence. Yes. But back to the concerts on the Canal, right? So I am the chair of the Welland Downtown BIA. I've been on the board for just over 8 years, or just under 8 years in that. And so I've been chair for, unfortunately, 2 years of COVID, and 2 years of not. And so we've been awarded the Concerts on the Canal to help with the programming and executing from the city of Welland. So the city council and the city staff were amazing with that. And we just recently released our programming, and looking at the diversity piece. Every time that we've run the concerts, we've always looked at one or two events that I guess are different in, I guess you'd say, traditional Canadian music and so on. And so we did 1 year of Francophone. Welland has a very proud Francophone community. Last year we did an amazing partnership with Pride Niagara with Dragon on the Water. And then this year we're going with a Latin inspired evening of music, and then also a reggae, I guess you'd say, island and Jamaican feel for that. We do have also an Afro Caribbean festival happening in the same location, so we thought that would have some good momentum. So that's another organization that's setting that up. So it's going to happen at Merritt Park. Yeah. So, we just look at those different opportunities, but it all kicks off June 23rd, where we have an 80s night is our kickoff.
I'm coming on my BMX bike.
Yes, absolutely. And I can't wait for you to appear on that BMX bike. But
I get a BMX bike.
We have Back to the 80s dance. And a great Niagara-based U2 tribute act called Desire. And they're going to play most of the 80s hits from U2. So it should be a pretty amazing night.
I have a little bit of an insider in the terms of the logistics of it, but we talked about the logistics of planning a parade, but how much for aspiring townships, towns and cities. How much work is it to put on a huge concert series like the concerts on the Canal?
Well, yeah, I'll start off with boring stuff like infrastructure. So probably 10 to 15 years ago, the city, through different revenue resources, built an amazing stage. We have literally a floating stage on the canal. We talked about earlier about different opportunities with the canal. And, the stands are literally on the banks, and then the stage is literally on the water. And so very unique. So that infrastructures are there. So a lot of places that do, one-off, they have to set up the stage right from, back to the Friendship Festival days and so on. So yeah, I would say if you have a set-up stage of a variety of different sizes, then that's half the battle. And then when you have a partnership with the city, with electrical and all that sort of stuff, and funding comes from them, that's an amazing opportunity. So we'd like to thank the City of Welland and City Council for that. And then when it comes down to the booking, it's just about getting ahead of that schedule, right? And trying to, because a lot of the bands get booked up even before Christmas, to looking at the summer. And yeah, there's always a negotiation process, getting the contracts ready, and then advertising and marketing, and then of course the execution of the events. Our staff, we have Canada Summer Job Grad students, and Alexis, our executive director, do an amazing job. And then we have a team of volunteers that do the bucket pass and so on. So I would say it's a significant amount of work, but it's not, if you space it out and start pre-Christmas or even just right after Christmas, it's a little bit easier to have it in digestible segments of planning.
It was a very, very well thought out and concise answer.
He didn't let me know about these questions either before, folks.
Well,
yeah.
We tend to ramble a bit, and we never know where we're going to end up. But no, that's...
Hence the rad, when I just totally, just blew your
Well,
mind.
when you're talking about BMXing, that's the first thing that came to my head. But
See?
I didn't want to mention it because then if you, and I don't know why I would have thought you hadn't heard about it or known it, then I would have had to explain it, which I already did anyways, but whatever.
Yeah, so you were born in 93?
92.
92. So the Jays were just winning. Wow. Yeah. But you know what? You're coming around. You're learning about rad and all these other things. So not all young people are a lost cause. So great job.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Did you, when you were more actively in Welland, did you ever get over to the concerts last year or anything?
Nothing. The only thing I've really seen on that stage was the Christmas festival. When
We did. We did photos of the Christmas
pyro performer, a guy with the
right.
Yeah. I forget his name, but he was fantastic. But they never a concert. Right?
They do good jobs with their concerts. Last year was weird, where it seemed every concert ended up being on a day that we had a wedding. So it becomes problematic in attending. But this year it looks like the schedule is going to play out that we're going to be able to go, and it's exciting. It's good. People.
I almost got to say hopefully not, because weddings are great, but
weddings are great as well. But
yeah, but obviously you want to make money through your business, absolutely. But the concert programming is free, right?
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if I like to go to live concerts as someone has always enjoyed music through playing it live or DJing, or I love going to concerts, but the prices now are ridiculous, right? And so I know that we always get a lot of positive feedback. Because the City of Welland and City Council, with the funding and all our sponsors, get an opportunity for people to attend music for free. Town of Pelham does a great job with that. Also, the City of Port Colborne have free concert series as well. And they all run on different nights. So yeah, I think you can go Wednesday, Port Colborne, Thursday, Pelham, Friday, Welland. So lots of different opportunities for free music.
It's good. It's important. I end up talking to a lot of people running the business that I run that have been in Welland forever, and being as somebody who temporarily lived in Welland when he was in college and then moved to St. Catharines, and only recently somewhat moved to Welland, but moving to Welland in the summer of 2020, nothing was happening. So hearing about people that have memories of the Rose Festival, or talking to people that love the flotation, what now? Float Fest.
Float Fest, yes.
Yeah.
It was all new to me, but there's a lot of things that happen in Welland, which is is good, and it's definitely good for tourism and good for the overall morale, especially as you say, concert tickets are typically insane in terms of pricing. To be offering very high quality and professional concerts for free is a great wow factor. Has there been market research on how much of a external draw the Concerts on the Canal is? Like I mean, not counting Port Colborne or something like that. Like, do people from Hamilton or Toronto make their way down?
Okay, I would say that, so from a specific city, talking to our businesses in the downtown BIA and then the North Welland BIA, most restaurants give like positive responses that they do see an uptick in business, even as I mentioned, Niagara Street restaurants and so on during those times. So each concert draws around 2,000 to 3,000 people. So, there is, lots of that residual economy push that happens through. But I don't hear too much, and we haven't really done a formal survey of who comes from other areas. I do work in St. Catharines and Niagara Falls, and a lot of people have not. This is just, once again, me just talking to people. Not a lot of people have made,
the treacherous trip from St. Catharines to Welland.
Yeah, and we try to encourage people to remind them that the 406 does operate in both directions. So to come see the concerts on the canal, and but it's a concert venue, and this is what I was telling a coworker that lives in St. Catharines. I'm like, you can rent a kayak at the Rotary Park off Lincoln Street, and then go attend, either Desire or the Heart and ACD's tribute act, on a kayak.
It's true.
Like,
it's unique.
That's very unique. Or you bring your own kayak. I don't know. BYOC, right? Or canoe. I thought it was
BYOK. But you can canoe as well. Paddle boat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Paddle boat. Non-motorized vehicle.
Or just swim if you're a strong swimmer.
An inflatable swan from Costco.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very. Oh, that's a good idea. Yes. If there is a swan fad, it's all because of this. Yeah.
Yeah. If Flow Fest just becomes a bunch of swans, you heard it here first.
I'm sure people have been doing that for ages. Those things are pretty popular.
Yeah. You're so humble. Yeah. It's not about me. It's about the swans.
Yeah. And the goats.
And the goats. Yeah.
Inflatable goats. If that takes off, then that's the yeah. How many people can fit on the back of an inflatable goat? I'm thinking at least 3.
Yeah.
If it's a Costco-sized one. That'd be pretty epic to see.
Have to attempt at least once. Final concert musician. Any hints or anything like that? See if we can get an exclusive push, but I'm not going to push it because I feel like it's a conflict of interest for me to push. But I actually don't even know who it is, so it's not.
That's why it's a secret concert. Yeah.
And there's a huge secret concert at the end of the year, and we don't know who's playing it. My guess is Jimmy Buffett will heal from his potential cancer and present himself on stage.
That would be the crazy.
A floating stage? It fits. It works.
Okay. Yeah. No, that would be excellent. I would absolutely be there for that.
Yeah. You're right. It's Jimmy Buffett. And
you heard it here first.
And actually, it's a huge spoiler. We're going to actually cut the stage off, and he's going to float off and never be seen again. It'll be a legacy. Playing Margaritaville.
Yeah.
And then as he...
Well, that is a good send-off. That's... if I had to go as him, I'd want to float away on a stage, wasting away on a stage in Welland.
Yeah. Yeah, so keep an eye on, like, obviously you can follow Downtown Welland through Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and to see when we release who the secret guy... It won't be Jimmy Buffett. That was just a gag, if you will, or a joke. Yeah. So
I'm going to make it clickbait. I'm going to say that Concerts on the Canal revealed.
Yeah, I just want to cease and desist, like how you said you were I dress as a green person who has a displeasure for Christmas. Yes, during the St. Catharines parade. Yeah.
I feel like he's a wild enough spirit that maybe they could advertise at the Margaritaville location in Niagara Falls and tell everybody to head out to Welland for that night or something.
Yeah.
You have your audience quartered pretty much. There's enough people that attend a mediocre restaurant.
That'd be pandemonium. Like just the all the bands that have been officially announced all sound great. Like huge fan of ABBA, so the fact that we have like an ABBA night and reggae, awesome. I cannot imagine what Welland would turn into if for some reason you bagged Elton John, like the real Elton John. That'd be insane. I would probably go on vacation that weekend because there'd be no parking. It'd be impossible.
No, yeah, you have to be very careful. You can't book acts that are too big because then it becomes a danger. Absolutely. But yeah, the ABBA act should be great. You know, ABBA has seen a huge, just for me DJing, I have younger people, and we talked about this at the opening, or the launch party at Terrace. And basically just, yeah, ABBA's on a huge influx, so that we wanted to capture that. And a great local DJ Tanner, is opening up, not a intentional Full House reference, I'm assuming, but he's utilizing true vinyl. So it's not just like he's not a laptop DJ like myself. He's using the true vinyl. So I know that some of our people from our Black Creek team are trying to get into the vinyl as well. And it is a difficult pursuit, right? Because there's no room for error on that, right?
It's true.
Yeah.
It was, Kelly DJ'd some local events last year at Terrace, just down the street, for your still perspective. And it was interesting going and watching a DJ, because normally whenever I'm at an event, I'm working. Well, the DJ is also working, so I don't pay attention, but I didn't go there to dance. I went there to have a drink and stand behind the stage with Kelly. It is very interesting hearing all the requests that people get, especially when they have alcohol in them. There is a wide range of requests and a wide range of sloppiness with the alcohol, which also leads to odd requests. And again, that's I'm just going to put a pin on that. It's just a unique, wonderful perspective that I have seen.
I feel like I'm always watching for that at the weddings. I like just people watching in general, because you never know if you're going to get a good photo opportunity. But then, yeah, just hearing all that is funny. Imagine if it's probably going to happen at some point, if in say 20 years alcohol is no longer the normal substance of choice for like a big event. It could be something else. You know what people are going to think in the future, and suddenly all of these sloppy drunk kind of requests and things go away. And
depending on the weddings that we've done, alcohol hasn't been
cannabis is definitely another contender, but I don't know if it'll be the main contender in the future.
I have done a couple dry weddings with no alcohol.
That'd be different.
Yeah, it is different. It's a little bit. You definitely have to I usually pre-work the tables, as in going to each table with a clipboard saying what requests you want to hear, what, all that sort of stuff. So you can kind of get ahead of it. It's absolutely crucial at a dry wedding to really get into what people want to hear and then try to parlay that as quickly as possible. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that evolves. But yeah, I probably won't be DJing when alcohol is not the primary source of enjoyment.
You're not going to be the still 70-plus-year-old DJs out there DJing weddings like we see young and old all the time.
I mean, a lot of events are transitioning to virtual spaces. Imagine if something like the VR systems really do catch on in the mainstream and suddenly everybody is existing in a virtual space, not just people that are like, in the computer games and stuff. That'd be a totally different thing too, trying to
virtual DJ Kelly Jones.
Like it loses some of its what it is in that context. I mean,
yeah,
you can probably still read a room in a virtual room, but like it would be quite different.
That is the most crucial thing. I know we kind of covered it before, but when I think about planning weddings, I mean, even for my wedding, we had to pick a DJ that specifically said, like, he doesn't just take our lists of songs and put them in the order that we gave him and just play. Like, he read the room, he played songs accordingly, and it makes such a big difference that a bad DJ won't do. Like, if it's a family friend, like you said, bad DJ, or a inexperienced DJ not being able to read the room can make a difference. Because once people are off the dance floor, you have to get them back on, and not everybody can do that. And when we're doing photo and video, if people leave the dance floor, what the hell are we doing? Because they went from dancing, leaving. We've still got 2 hours, and now they're back drinking coffee.
There's always like a squad of people on some kind of shenanigans outside. Like there's always something happening. It's usually the smokers that are like just doing some wild.
We did a wedding that had actually in Delhi, one of the halls has a bowling alley in the basement.
That's good.
So you want to talk about unique weddings? We switched up midway through the reception and did bowling photography, which was unique.
Yeah, well, it really comes down to percentages as well. This is just speaking from a DJ angle here, is that when you have unique weddings that have like outside of the dance area, we have a whiskey station, we have a cigar station, we have a s'more station, we have this, we have that. And you're like, that's all competition for my dance floor, right? And if you have 50 people at a wedding and you got 5 people at this station, 5 people at that station, and then you got a percentage of people that don't dance, all of a sudden I have to narrowly focus on this smaller population that are just on the dance floor. And I have to like, whatever you want to hear, like I'll just say, you're in control of the dance floor right now. Let's get your request in. Let's work together. And then we'll start bringing some people back in. But when you're dealing with a traditional wedding in a hall, nowhere else fun to go, you got 200 people, then you're like, okay, here we go. You know, like the best weddings are, you know, outdoor. I can think of one outdoor wedding I did on Lake Erie. It rained all night. We were in a tent and everybody had to be inside. It was a complete amazing evening because everyone was like, we're all in here together against the rain, right? And it was awesome.
Yeah, that's a good selling point for if it rains on a wedding day and it's an outdoor wedding. Yeah. Don't worry, the dance floor will be lit. It's perfect.
It's a good sales pitch. If it does happen to rain, you know, make sure your DJ is ready to light up the dance floor. No, it's interesting. Years ago, I would, like when talking with brides and grooms, they'd be like, hey, have you done this venue or that venue? And when I was younger, I'd always feel embarrassed to say no, because I hadn't done Club Roma yet or whatever. And now I find that there's so many brides and grooms that are going completely unique to them and doing it on a family, friend's property or something like that. So now whenever people are like, oh, have you done a wedding there? I end up having to tell them no, but we do so many weddings that are, because if you're getting married on your uncle's farm, again, you know, another uncle story, chances are very few, if anybody else, are ever going to get married there. So that venue is truly unique to the couple, but it just knocks off one of our potential new venues off our list because that venue is...
Hey, if we're not a preferred vendor, I don't care. Work anywhere, right?
That's true.
We're not going to get any props for like working in a certain place necessarily, so it's not a big deal in my mind.
Okay.
Yeah. I know we started late, we went longer. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, it's been a good experience. Yeah. I was happy I was able to talk about Black Creek Music and especially their new location in Delhi. And
I've heard good things. I haven't
Capital
been.
33 and talk about Welland downtown, talk about the infrastructure. Most importantly, talk about RAD. You know, that was really important. Get that out there because maybe I heard there's people even younger than you too. And it's important that we keep that RAD legacy alive.
Maybe there'll be a RAD too. They're big into like rebooting stuff. I mean, it's an 80s somewhat cult classic. They could make a RAD 2.
It could be a new Fast and Furious series.
RAD X.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your time. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, appreciate your time too.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Tune in next week when we have
Somebody,
because
figure it out.
We have to figure that out. But thank you very much. Have a good day.
Night.